Only in the last few hours have authorities begun removing bodies from the Century Aurora Theater behind me. Those bodies of the 12 confirmed dead. 10 were killed in this theater. 2 more died at the hospital. But from tweets sent out by some of their loved ones, we know about some of their lives and the legacies they'll leave behind. For all the mysteries surrounding the gunman, the most painful unknown is the fate of the missing for family and loved ones. All day, 10 of the deceased remained inside the building while law enforcement secured the scene. That meant families and friends left waiting and wondering. Now, finally, they can begin mourning. From the early hours of this tragedy, a very public outpouring of condolences from across the world to the victims and their families, and an effort to focus on the lives lost instead of the man who took them. Let us remember the names of the victims and not the name of the coward who committed this act. The words of Jordan Gowie, the brother of Jessica Gowie, a 25-year-old aspiring sportscaster. After a hysterical phone call from his mother this morning, Jordan set out for Colorado to fill in the missing pieces of his sister's last moments. Tell me about your sister.
She was lively and bubbly, full of energy, full of life and passion.
One of her last tweets: "Never thought I'd have to coerce a guy into seeing the midnight showing of The Dark Knight Rises with me." That guy was Brent Lowack, a close high school friend of Jessica's. Brent said Jessica was screaming that she'd been shot in the leg when the shooter walked up to them. He pointed his gun at Jessica and fired again, striking her in the head. Brent was wounded, but managed to crawl to safety. Incredibly, just over a month ago, Jessica narrowly missed falling victim to another shooting at a mall in Toronto. "I was shown how fragile life was," she wrote on her blog. "I say all the time that every moment we have to live our life is a blessing." And friend Peter Burns told us Jessica did just that until last night.
She sees life. She lived 24 years and more life experience than people will live maybe in their entire lifetime.
Another family member grieving tonight, this father who told a local Fox affiliate reporter that his 6-year-old daughter had died and that his ex-wife had been shot but survived.
I was called at 3 in the morning from a family member in New York to tell me that my Ashley had been shot and they didn't know where my child was.
And then they told you your child was dead?
No, after 3 hours sitting at Children's Hospital in Aurora, I found out my child was dead. After being thrown in circles and circles and telling me, "Oh yes, you'll be able to see her in just a moment," I find my child is dead.
The frustration was echoed throughout the day.
"Tell me where he is, okay? Find my son. I don't know where he is. Okay, somebody find him and call us. Tell him to call us. His name is Alex Sullivan. Please call so we can find him. All right? Thanks." There he is. He's 20. Today's his birthday, for God's sakes. 27.
Some of those searching for loved ones all day may finally have answers. But how do you mourn privately amidst such a public tragedy?
Loss is very individual, and there will be some family members who say, this person was mine, but for others, they will really take solace in the fact that, this individual, my loved one, was important to me, but I also see that the world saw them and honored my loved one as I did.
For the survivors of the shooting, a different challenge, moving forward in their lives with hope instead of guilt, inspired perhaps by the words of Jessica Gowie. Every hug from a family member, every laugh we share with friends, every second of every day is a gift. In the hours and days that go forward, we're going to hear about more lives that were needlessly snuffed out and lives that were slowed down by this gunman. But so far, only one name has been released, and you heard that name. You just heard her words, Jessica Gowie. Her brother was in the piece, and just a few moments ago, they were all in that family trying to find ways to keep her alive. And of course, her mother wants that more than anybody else. And Diane had a chance to speak to her just a little bit earlier.
That's right, Chris, I did. I talked to Sandy Phillips, who only had 25 years with her rare and remarkable daughter. I just want you to know that we all fell in love with Jessica today as we read about her.
She was very easy to fall in love with.
You said at one point she was a jolt of lightning.
Yes, she was like a jolt of lightning. We would tease when she would come home for a visit that she'd walk in the door and it was just automatic chaos because of the energy level that she brought into a room.
We have been reading through some of the things she wrote today. I think it is going to stun everyone that she was there in Toronto
Yes.
when there was that awful shooting there. And she wrote afterwards, it was a final post on her personal blog, "I can't get this odd feeling out of my chest. This empty, almost sickening feeling won't go away."
Yes, and she was very affected by watching the victims being brought out of that shooting and realizing that several of them were very close to her own age, and realized that life is very fragile. And she had a epiphany at that moment that it could happen to any of us at any time. And instead of being afraid of that, she embraced life even more fully.
I know that she read, I was shown how fragile life is. We don't know when our time on earth will end, when or where we will breathe our last breath.
Beautifully written. And we had really thought we had literally dodged a bullet that day. And I was so grateful that she was all right, and that the chances of her experiencing anything like that ever again were impossible.
How did you hear?
I couldn't sleep last night, and I woke up, and usually when I wake up and can't sleep, I see what time it might be in Denver and I'll text her, and I did so last night, and I texted her and asked if she was still up, and she said, yes, we're going to a movie. And I said, okay, enjoy, I'll talk with you tomorrow. And she texted, Mom, go get some sleep, get some rest. I'm so excited about your visit next week. I need my mama. And I wrote back and said, I need my baby girl. And about half hour later, Brent called, the boy that she was with and a good family friend, called and said that they had been in a shooting. And of course, initially I thought he was joking, and then I could hear all the screaming in the background. And he said, we've been in a shooting. And I asked, who, where, what are you talking about? And he said, it's a random shooting. I've been hit twice. Jesse's been hit twice. And I said, is she okay? And he said, I'm so sorry. And I just screamed, please tell me she's alive. And of course he couldn't tell me that.
And a young girl who wrote, every second of every day is a gift. I truly understand how blessed I am for each second I am given.
Yes. And we were blessed to have her every second.
And our arms are around you tonight in every way, Sandy, in every way.
Thank you, Diane. Thank you.
And as Chris said earlier, so many of these victims so young. We're going to go back to Chris now, who is there with ABC's David Muir, who spent the day at the hospital with survivors. Chris?
David and I have been reporting this story all day. What is the latest that we know from there?
Well, we had that staggering number all day, Chris. 70 people injured, the vast majority of whom were shot by that gunman. But we also know that at this hour, 29 people are still at the hospital, 8 people in critical condition, so a lot of families holding vigil. It wasn't just that one theater, too. It was the adjacent theater. They were also watching Batman. We heard that story of the Colorado State football player who was pierced with a bullet when the bullet started spraying right through the wall in between the two theaters when he opened fire. He's okay. He was treated and released, but it just gives you a window into the chaos that extended well through that building behind us.
The vast number were shot, but other injuries as well, right? What do we know?
A long list. You had the shrapnel injuries, you had the casings, so many people telling us about how they were hiding in between the rows, but the rain of casings showering down on them, burning them. And the unsung heroes, we both heard about this today, the police officers who came in with the flashlights, they couldn't see anything, didn't know what they were going to find, stumbling over the wounded and literally deciding to drag the wounded into their police cars, turning those patrol cars into mini medevacs, into ambulances. They're being credited with saving so many people.
So many layers to this situation. David, thank you.